And nearly all of the recipients of the Knox College Achievement Award have left this campus following graduation, going on to establish their careers, pursuing their lives, work, and interest around the country and really throughout the entire world. And as most of you know here today, that's not been the case for me. Other than my time in graduate school and teaching history at Rock Island High School, I've been at Knox really all my life. All the way back, of course, to the time that I was born. I heard the Knox Monmouth game out the hospital window when I was born. So, therefore, any reflections I make about the influences that Knox has had on my life, the ways it has affected me, what Knox has meant to me, is rather different, I suppose, from what recipients of this award have said at this event in the past. Because the fact of the matter is my social values, my political attitudes, my aesthetic appreciations, and for that matter, nearly everything that has shaped my point of view is grounded in what was once called the Knox idea. And what's more, almost everyone in my family has been fundamentally influenced by Knox College. So it's difficult for me to, and I really mean this, to separate my parents' influence on me from the influence of Knox College. Those are so entwined. My father was a serious-minded man, though I could make him laugh. If you look up at his portrait, you can see that. So, you know, Plato attributes to Socrates the words that the unexamined life is not worth living. And I suppose that dictum seems to have been the basis upon which my father tried to lead his life, along with Santayana's observation that those who do not remember the past are condemned to repeat it. So my dad genuinely believed, I think, that one should try to consider as many points of view as possible before drawing conclusions. And he thought one should, and this was something he said frequently, try to carefully mull things over first before drawing conclusions, and certainly think back about what has preceded what had gone on in the past before moving forward. He thought that a well-rounded education laid the foundation for being able to achieve this approach to life in a liberal arts education like the one offered at a school like Knox. Not just Knox, but schools like us could make that approach to life possible. First and foremost, excuse me, he championed civil liberties. And his knowledge of the past was simply amazing. He loved to read poetry, he loved to listen to classical music, he loved to play word games. He was outraged at intolerance, and he loathed demagogues. He truly admired those who tried to reach a consensus in the midst of controversy. And one of my fondest memories growing up was sitting on my front porch or sitting in the living room of my house, listening to conversations he had with his faculty colleagues on a wide range of topics. The fact of the matter is, by the time I got to high school, by the time I was starting high school, my close friends would sometimes say to me on a summer night, let's just go over to your house and listen to your dad talk. Fortunately, my mother, and Alex smiles, because she knew my mother. My mother made sure that my brother and my sister and I were made aware of a world beyond the confines of the academic community. Annie Muelder most certainly had a high regard for higher education. She was herself a teacher. But her views of life were in many ways quite different from my father's. And she, I would say more than anything else, truly believed in pursuing happiness. My mother was a quick study. And unlike my dad, she did not hold back from expressing her opinions quickly. Sometimes she arrived at these opinions in strange ways. She didn't hold back on saying what she thought. She loved games, and she encouraged me to play ball and to sing in the choir, perform on the stage, and have fun. She was a realist. One of her favorite sayings was, You can wish in one hand and spit in the other and see what you get. So, anyway, by the time I enrolled at Knox, I must say I was ready to have a good time, and in retrospect, I think I probably had too good a time at Knox. But I received an outstanding education here, and because my father was the college's dean by then, I had the opportunity to meet remarkable visitors to the Knox campus. Senators and Supreme Court justices and journalists and poets, novelists, scientists, historians, and artists. When I went to graduate school, I was startled to realize that the kind of education I had received at Knox and in my house was vastly different from my classmates. So, at this kind of affair, you should spend most of your time thanking people. So let me again apologize to all of the people, many of whom I look out and see today, who I will not mention by name. I must say, though, when I look at Dave Schultz and Rich Rudell, they're trustees now, and I think that they're RAs. So I feel compelled to recognize some people. I certainly want to express my appreciation to Sam Moon and to John Stitt, who were my academic advisors when I was a student here. I want to thank Roy Anderson, who always had my back in the 1970s, which had some tough times. Roy liked to call me the sheriff. And more than once. There are, of course, two Knoxes, one by day and one by night. I want to recognize John Moore, who I reported to in the Dean of Students Office in the Advancement Office. I would like to thank John Strauss. For God's sake, John Strauss helped me with nearly every task I had when I was the director of the Alumni Affairs, even when he knew I was a Cardinal fan. Unbelievable. It's hard for John. He's a loyal Cardinal. I would like to also express my appreciation for the integrity with which Steve Bailey conducted his affairs when he was the Associate Dean of the college, and I want to congratulate Harley Nosher on the fact that he managed to administer the athletic department for 40 years in a way that never compromised the academic standards of the college. And I would also like to mention the importance of three lifelong friends, all Knox alums, Dennis Baylor, Peter Robinson, and Jay Madsen. Three Knox presidents have been particularly supportive of my efforts, Charlie Embeck, Roger Taylor, and Teresa Amott, as well as Deans Larry Breitbord and more recently Laura Belling. Any success I have enjoyed as a historian over the last dozen years or so would have been impossible without the encouragement I received from Doug Wilson and Rod Davis. And I will be eternally grateful to Bob Seibert, who suggested to me years ago that I attempt to seriously address looking at the college's early history and its connections to the anti-slavery movement and the Underground Railroad. And I would also like to salute 4 faculty members who are still teaching here, who, like me, began their careers here in the late 60s and early 70s. Lance Factor, Robin Metz, Dennis Schneider, and Lane Sunderland. They've devoted their lives to Knox. I would like to thank 2 couples from my era as a student at Knox who have demonstrated remarkable generosity to the college for decades. Bud and Mary Jo Potter, Ann and Roger Taylor. And I must also thank Jeff Douglas and his remarkable legion of library staff employees who have helped me in numerous ways. And let me also congratulate someone who came to Knox, who I consider to be one of the key administrators in the history of our school, Tom Axel, who has insisted, after he landed here, on having the college face the fact that it must have annual budgets that stay reasonably well, not always perfect, but reasonably well within the means of the college. I really mean, I think, as I look back over my time at Knox, what Tom did on that front was crucial. So, I have saved for the last the following 4 people. My sister, Marcia Miller Eaton, who's always been there for me. My daughters, Carrie and Caitlin, who mean more to me than they will ever know. Both have grown up to be wonderful women, caring, honest, fair-minded. And last and most important of all, my wife, Lori, whose love and loyalty has meant so much to me. In addition, her criticism and her suggestions have saved me from disaster on more than one occasion. To borrow a line from poet Donald Justice, she is my Belle Harbor, my San Salvador. So, finally, let me say this. According to William James, the deepest principle in human nature is the craving to be appreciated. Let me assure you all I've never felt more appreciated than I do.